I'd like to thank you all for coming. I know things are a little darker in the evening now, but they're a little lighter in the morning when I take my morning walk. So. Okay, so most of you probably know this song. We'll sing a little bit. Prabhupada always started his class with these songs. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashoda Nandana Vrajajana Ranjana Yashoda Nandana Vrajajana Ranjana Jamuna Tiravanachari Yamuna Tiravanachari and Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol. So I just want to okay. Just give me a second here. Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So on this ninth day of November 2025 in San Diego, we're reading from Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And this is the Sunday feast lecture. I was hoping someone would come in and relieve me on the kirtan and I'd to speak both of these things, but some of you may not know there's a big festival going on in Tucson this weekend, and many of our Balaram and Guru Krishna Prabhu and Yamunapati all went there. So I'm trying to hold the fort. So we're going to be reading today from chapter 5 called Karma Yoga, Action and Krishna Consciousness. And in case you don't know, we have classes on Bhagavad Gita three nights a week starting at 7:15 p.m. and they're available. You can see them on YouTube, actually. I don't know if you've ever gone onto Mayapur TV on YouTube. You'll see that they have San Diego Temple, and if you get there at 7:15, we'll be holding forth. We're in the 12th chapter now, all about bhakti. So those of you who attend my classes a little bit, this is one of my favorite verses to quote. So I don't know if you know this one, but maybe some of you do. Text 22 of chapter 5. Yehi sangsparjaja boga dukkayonaya evate Adyantavanta kaunteya nateshu ramate buddha. Krishna says to Arjuna, an intelligent person does not take part in the pleasures which are due to the contact with the material senses. O son of Kuntī, such pleasures are the sources of misery and have a beginning and an end, and so the wise do not take delight in them. Purport. It's a short purport here. Material sense pleasures are due to the contact of the material senses, which are all temporary because the body itself is temporary. A liberated soul is not interested in anything which is temporary. Knowing well the joys of transcendental pleasures, how can a liberated soul agree to enjoy false pleasures? In the Padma Purana it is said, Ramante yogano nante satyanande chiratmani iti rama padenaso padam brahmabhidiyate. The mystics, this is the translation, the mystics derive unlimited transcendental pleasures from the Absolute Truth. And therefore the Supreme Absolute Truth, the Personality of Godhead, is also known as Rama. Rama means spiritual pleasure. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, also 551, it is said, now this is a very important verse which we'll also discuss. This is spoken by Lord Rishabdev to his many sons before he retired. Nayam deho deha bhajang loke kashtan kaman arhate vidbhujange topo divyam putraka yena sattvam shudye jasma brahma saukyam tvanantam. My dear sons, there is no reason to labor very hard for sense pleasure while in this human form of life. Such pleasures are available to the hogs. Rather, you should undergo penances in this life by which your existence will be purified. And as a result, you will be able to enjoy unlimited transcendental bliss. Therefore, those who are true yogis or learned transcendentalists are not attracted by sense pleasures, which are the causes of continuous material existence. The more one is addicted to material pleasures, the more he is entrapped by material miseries. Om jnana timirandasya jnanandana shalakaya chakshu unmilitam mena tasmai shri gurave namaha. I was born in the darkest of ignorance, but my spiritual master Srila Prabhupada opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisance unto him and all members of Sri Parampara. So this verse always struck me as very kind of graphic and very illuminating. Because, let's face it, as living entities, we are pleasure-seeking beings. Just as Krishna is. He's the reservoir of all pleasure. We have a little pamphlet. Have you seen that? Reservoir of pleasure. And why not? If you think about God, if he's anything, he's all-powerful, right? He can do whatever he wants, which we know Krishna can. So why would anyone say, well, I think I'll have a little misery now, just to balance it out? If you were God, wouldn't you want to enjoy all the time? We try to do it anyway, but we can't because we have these limitations of the bodies. So, but it's interesting that we are part and parcel of Krishna. We have the same qualities. Krishna says in the 14th chapter, or 15th chapter, I think, Mamai vangsho jiva loke jiva bhuta sanatana manak shashtan indriyani prakriti stani karshiti. Mama eva angsha. All of the jivas, that includes all of us, and any living thing you encounter, even the plants. These trees here, standing for so many years. I came here in '89. They're still standing. They haven't gone anywhere, you know. But they're as alive as I am. They're as much a spirit soul as I am. But the consciousness is much, much more covered. And so they don't know anything. Maybe the sun comes up and they think, oh, let me get some more sun, you know. But there's spirit souls. So this is the first teaching of the Bhagavad Gita. Krishna, when he begins teaching Arjuna, after Arjuna surrenders to him, as your disciple, you know, the famous verse in the seventh verse of the second chapter. After Arjuna has made all of these arguments based on the Shastra, that if I fight, then so many men will be killed and the women will become unprotected and the forefathers won't be worshipped anymore. I'll be responsible for it. I'll go to hell. So better I go to the forest. I don't want to kill Bhishma Dev, my beloved grandfather figure, or Dronacharya, my beloved teacher, or so many other relatives and friends he saw on the other side. So that was Arjuna at the beginning. And for his own sense gratification, admittedly it was kind, pious. He didn't want to kill anybody, you know. But it wasn't what Krishna wanted. It was for his own reasons. And therefore, Prabhupada says in near the end of the second chapter, he's describing a verse that describes how one can be desireless. Vihaya kama nyaksavam pumang chadrinixpraha. And in that purport, he says, at first, Arjuna wanted to satisfy his own desires by not fighting. Even though it may have been very pious looking, it wasn't what Krishna wanted, therefore it was wrong. You see? But when after he learned the Bhagavad Gita, he fought for Krishna's pleasure, because Krishna wanted it, and he had a larger plan to install Yudhishthira as the king and to annihilate many miscreants like that. So that's really the transformation of Arjuna is what the whole Bhagavad Gita is about. The transformation of his heart, of his desires, of his understanding of what was the right thing to do and what he wanted to do. So here, this verse is very uncompromising. He says, those sense pleasures. Now, what are those senses? Well, we all have these senses, right? We have the eyes, the ears, the tongue. We have active senses too. The hands, the feet, reproductive organs. These are things that we work with. But they're all of these knowledge-acquiring senses. That's what we commonly think of as senses. And because we're part and parcel of Krishna, we also have a propensity to enjoy. But on the material platform, these enjoyments result in misery. How do they do that? This is a very important understanding. So there's so much the description in this Bhagavad Gita about action that we're probably called fruitive. In other words, with a desire for us to enjoy the fruit. This is so common we don't even think twice about it. But that is what keeps us bound to this world. Because we build up so many desires. The science is, in the 15th chapter, it's very nicely described near the beginning, that how do we transmigrate? Okay? First of all, Krishna in the beginning says, we've been transmigrating all our life. All of us can remember maybe when we were 8 years old, 9 years old. There's some memories, right? You can think back. I'm 78. I can remember a few high points, right? So I know that I was there. I was an 8-year-old at one point. I had a different mind. I had a different body, right? But I was the same person. So what was the same? Can anyone raise their hand? Let me know. What's the same about me now as it was when I was 8? The soul, the Atma, which really can mean the self, right? So this body, as Krishna explained in the 18th chapter, is a vehicle. It's a machine, an incredibly complicated, intricate machine that allows us as the soul to interact with the material world and to experience pleasures. But unfortunately, there's also suffering that takes place. We know that just from being in the world. So the material enterprise of every living entity who's in a material body is to maximize the pleasures and minimize the pain. Right? This is the hard struggle for existence. Sometimes the pleasure just, can I get enough to eat today? Right? And then, the dogs, the cats, everything, that's a major part of their day, right? And if they're domesticated, then their master will take care of them and they'll have that, But what is the purpose of the whole thing? What would be an improvement? Well, we wouldn't get old, right? Wouldn't die, and we wouldn't suffer. That sounds like, yeah, that's Pollyanna. We know that real life means that you have to suffer. Yes, that's true about material life. But Krishna is giving us an explanation and science in this Bhagavad Gita of who we really are and what our real mission in life should be. And that mission in life should be to end this cycle of birth and death, birth, old age, disease, and death, birth, old age, disease, and death. This is what we've been undergoing for maybe millions of years, millions of births, but we forget them all. This is part of Krishna's blessing. He says in the 15th chapter, Mattak smritir jnanam apohanangsha, I am the spirit soul, I am the super soul, in everyone's body, right? And from me come knowledge, remembrance, and forgetfulness. Where would we be without that forgetfulness? Can you imagine? I was in a massive case of PTSD. Oh my God, I'm just remembering that birth. I was eaten by a shark. Oh God, we wouldn't be able to. So we forget. You take birth, it's such a traumatic thing. It's a new life, right? So Now, I'd like to just focus on this verse that Prabhupada quotes in the purport. It's very, very cogent, of course. These instructions by Rishabhdev, I remember when they came out. You know, I've been around for a long time. I was joined in 1973, and in 1975, two very important, historically important events happened in the movement. The first thing that happened in April was that the Krishna Balaram temple was opened in Vrindavan. Prabhupada wanted that to happen since 1970, and he had, I think, Guru Das there. And yes, we're ready to open Prabhupada. It was 73. So Prabhupada invited all these people, and he came and said, we're not ready to open. The deities are, you know. So he said, he was upset with him. So he said, okay, next year. Next year, the same thing happened. He wasn't ready. So 75, it actually was going to happen. And I won't go into detail, but somehow I was just a simple brahmachari in Brooklyn, you know, but I was part of the BBT, and the whole BBT, the Bhaktivedanta Book Trust, book production crew, was allowed to go to India, to Vrindavan. That was my first trip to that opening. Now, the other amazing thing that happened is when we got back, that was April, say, beginning of May or middle of May, you know, came back, and Prabhupada, he came to LA, and on a morning walk, because he was producing these books, he was getting up in the middle of the night, and he was dictating these books. He had finished about five cantos of the Bhagavatam and all of the Chaitanya Charitamrita, which at that point was 17 volumes. Now it's condensed down to 9 volumes. So that's a lot of work, but it wasn't being produced. We weren't doing it fast enough. And so he consolidated the whole press into LA, into Los Angeles. So we got there, the painters were there, you know, and the Sanskrit guys were there and everything. And I wasn't immediately part of the marathon. He said, you have to finish all 15 books in 2 months. My God, you know. So the leader there, he said, Prabhupada, that's impossible. There was a morning walk, you know, he'd take on Venice Beach. They're all walking on the beach. So Prabhupada, that's impossible. And Prabhupada said, and this statement echoed around the whole movement. And he stopped, he put his cane, you know, he'd have his cane, put the cane into the sand, and he looked him in the eye and said, impossible is a word in a fool's dictionary. He said, you have to do it in 2 months, you see. Otherwise, you're disqualified. So he said, okay. So it was an amazing thing, and it really inspired devotees all over the movement when we were able to do it. Anyway, I was able to contribute something to it. I did about 4 or 5 chapters in the Antya Lila and the same amount in the 5th canto. So that was unforgettable. So this was part of it. The teachings of Rishabhdev are in the 5th canto. So when they came out, this verse especially, Prabhupada was traveling in India, and wherever he went, he for like 12 lectures in a row, he would always give the morning lecture on the Bhagavatam. He lectured on this particular verse again and again. So what do they say? Nayam deho deha bhajam nirloke. Nirloke means a human being. If you were born as a human being, then kashtan kaman, you shouldn't struggle very hard for material sense gratification, kaman, which is available to the hogs. In other words, it's an animalistic type life. Then what's the alternative? Topo divyam. O sons, he's speaking to his sons. You have to perform austerity. Now we're all performing austerity, getting up, you know, driving. But this is divyam, divine austerity. In other words, that which aims at spiritual realization. And what's the advantage? Sattvam shuddhyate. That will purify your existence. Purify it of what? Purify it of material desires, purify it of ignorance. In other words, it will lead you to spiritual perfection. Yasmat, by that purification, Brahma Saukyam Tvanantam. Now this is very pertinent here, because this material pleasure, adi antavan, it has a beginning and an end. But this spiritual pleasure, if you can cultivate it, it doesn't have an end. Anantam. Where do we find that? You don't find that on the material plane. You may possess hundreds of billions of dollars, but no matter what you do, you're still getting older, and whatever pleasure you have, there's a beginning and an end, and eventually the whole body is ended, and your billions stay here, and you go. We don't want to think where you go. To become a billionaire materially is not. So here's the Brahma Saukyam. Now this is an important point. Spiritual pleasure. Sukha is Saukyam. Tu, Anantam, without an end. So this is the whole, should be the whole mission we should embrace. We've been given the knowledge, the means, we have this beautiful temple, and the previous verse talks about the same idea. I'll just chant it real quick. Bhaya sparsheshu asaktatma vindit yatmani yat sukham sab brahma yoga yuktatma sukham akshayam ashnate. A liberated person, liberated from all this material attachments, is not attracted to material sense pleasure, but is always in trance, enjoying the pleasure within. In this way, the self-realized person enjoys unlimited happiness, for he concentrates on the Supreme. Now, the Supreme has three aspects, as mentioned in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Is the Brahman. Brahman is the white light. That's the Nirvishesha that Prabhupada is saving us from. No details. There's no Krishna there. There's no. If you're there, you also don't have a body. It's just that, what is the advantage? Oh, no more birth, old age, disease, and death. I'm free. I'm liberated. Now what? Now what do I do? As souls, we're persons. We're looking for spiritual pleasure, which really comes in connection with Krishna and service to Krishna. That we never get tired of. But you'll get tired of just being in the Brahmajyoti. And then you'll eventually come down to this plate. Maybe you'll become a philanthropist or something. You can't really have a eternal life because it's unnatural. We know that we're all persons, right? We have desires, we have senses, we have all these things. Now that spiritual body, that spiritual personality is covered by matter. But if we act with knowledge and we cultivate this knowledge and we chant Hare Krishna, we can develop, rediscover our own spiritual identity. That's the whole point. We all have it. It's intrinsic to the soul. Lord Chaitanya, who's Krishna himself, he taught this to Sanatana Goswami. He says, Nitya Siddha Krishna Prem Sadhya Kabunoi Shavanadi Shuddha Chitte Koraye Udoi. It's Bengali. So Nitya Siddha, the eternal perfection of Krishna Prema, pure love for Krishna. That's really the goal of life. Sadhya Kabunoi, it's not something that has to be brought from outside. It's intrinsic to every living entity. But we can't access it. We've forgotten it. So how do we awaken it? Shavanadi Shuddha, by hearing, etc. What's the etc.? Hearing, chanting, remembering, serving. There are 9 processes of devotional service. And the most important are hearing and chanting. Just like a kirtan. That's the perfection of that. Kirtan is I chant, you hear, you chant, I hear. The holy name. And then we get inspired, and we have a drummer who can keep the time properly. Thank you. Where is he? And we like to dance, right? Dancing and chanting the holy name. This is Lord Chaitanya's gift, and we're going to get that in a minute, because I'm going to... the first verse of the Shikshastika, many of you are familiar with, possesses a whole philosophy right in it, and we'll explore it. So here he's saying, Bhaya sparsheshu, the external touch of the senses to the sense objects, asaktatma. The realized soul is not interested. Vindati, he enjoys atmani, within the soul, the happiness within the soul. What is that? Brahma yoga yuktatma. That his soul is linked up in yoga to Brahma, the Supreme Brahman. The Supreme Brahman is Krishna. So linked up in yoga, bhakti yoga. All the varieties of bhakti yoga. Is never bored. There's always some service to do. Even if it's just to sit and chant Hare Krishna, that can be fulfilling. We just had the Gaur Kishore Das Babaji's disappearance day. And this morning, Bhajan Narayan Swami, if you want to check it out on YouTube, he gave a very nice talk describing the glories of Gaur Kishore Das Babaji. Basically, he sat by the Bhagirath River when he came to Mayapur. He was attracted to Bhaktivinoda Thakur and Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati's father and Prabhupada's grand spiritual master. And he wanted to hear from him, but he was basically chanted all day. He chanted Hare Krishna. You see, just like Haridas Thakur. But it was never boring, because Krishna's name is non-different from Krishna. And if you really get absorbed, and you're absorbed, then it's you're with the Leela with Krishna through the holy name. So this willingness to try chanting the holy name regularly and to make it an integral part of our lives is a blessing of Krishna, if we come to that conclusion. So he says, such a liver is not attracted, he concentrates on the Supreme and enjoys unlimited happiness. And this is the same thing with Nayam Deho. As opposed to the Kaman, which is available to the hogs, has a beginning and an end. If you become purified by divine penance. And what is that divine austerity, spiritual austerity? Well, it includes the first austerity is getting up early, leaving some time in the morning before you have to go to work or school or whatever you have to do, where you can chant, you can read, you can do bhajan. At home, you can set up a nice altar, in your home, and you can worship the deities. You can offer your food there, and most important, to hear the books, read the books of Srila Prabhupada, and of course come to the temple. And now we have the internet; you can hear verses from all over the world. Those of you who don't know, there's so many wonderful sites, and one is ISKCON Desire Tree. It's been around for quite a few years, and there's a whole section, audio section. There's no fee. All audio, all different lectures and addresses that by leading devotees. They even gave me a section, but you can ignore that. But you have the leaders of the movement. You can hear them. So if you want to, you could, because of Prabhupada's efforts and all the efforts of his devotees who follow him, it's accessible. And most important, of course, the books. So now, just to explore this verse, Brahma Yoga Yuktatma, when we keep our soul connected, yukta, to the Supreme Brahman, Krishna, through yoga, bhakti, then we come to the platform, if we practice and practice, of Sukham Akshayam Ashnute, to enjoy unbreakable happiness. Where do you find that on the material plane? You can't. We're settling for a poor replica of actual happiness. But as Prabhupada says in a different purport, that happiness that we feel from sense gratification is our worst enemy. That convinces the bewildered mind that we can enjoy in this world. But you can, in a very limited way and sporadic way, but it's going to bring you another birth, and that means another death, old age, and who knows what this world is going to be like, in 5 years, what to speak of 20, 30, 40. So we should become determined to get out. Krishna says in 13th chapter, there's a whole list of elements of knowledge, starting with humility. We first have to understand, I need a guide who's transcendental, you see, that I can really listen to. And as Arjuna does, says, now, because he doesn't argue with him. He was arguing with Krishna. Krishna said, you should do like this. Oh, I can't, this is my beloved guru, like that. And then he surrendered. He said, okay, no more of this friend to friend. We're not getting anywhere. I'm surrender to you as your shishya. And the first thing Krishna did was chastise him. That's what the Guru can do. Ashochanam Ashocastram. You're seem to be speaking learner's words, but you're lamenting for what is not worthy of grief, namely this material body. Because although there's a vast annihilation on the Battle of Kurukshetra, we know so many people died, but nobody died. Krishna says right in the second chapter, the Jayate Mriyate Vakajachan, for the soul there is never birth or death at any time. We are as eternal as Krishna is. So the whole point is, how can we get out of this illusory identification with our particular material body, which keeps us bound again to this round of samsara. And who knows how long it's been going on. Days of Brahma, Brahma's one day is what, 8 billion plus years? Do we really want to prolong the agony that long? Let's get out, at least make some progress, Nothing is lost. In material life, everything is lost. These billionaires, hey, billions are going to stay here when their body breaks down eventually. And where that soul is going to go, I don't want to think about it. It's scary. But we can assure ourselves of a human birth just by practicing Krishna consciousness. In fact, I would say, even by coming here, not listening to me, but at least listen to Prabhupada's books, one time. And many of you are regulars, I see. You're assured of a human life. Well, let's make as much progress as we can in this life. That means becoming more serious about chanting and following the principles that Srila Prabhupada has laid out. The beautiful book, Nectar of Devotion, I encourage you to get it. It's by Rupa Goswami. Prabhupada gave a summary study of it, but it's quite intricate. And it basically is the science of Bhakti Yoga in great detail, and also explaining and describing the various rasas that one can have with Krishna. Just because many of you have celebrated to one degree or another this month of Damodar that we just ended. Meditation every day on this wonderful pastime of Krishna, obscuring all of his glory so that he can have this wonderful relationship of mother and son with Mother Yashoda. She, of course, had glimpses of his divinity. The pastime where Balaram and the others said, Krishna, little baby Krishna has eaten earth. And Mother said, why have you done that? He said, oh, they're lying about me. We had a fight, and then Balaram's lying about me. So she said, well, open your mouth, and let me see if you have earth in there. So he opened his mouth, and suddenly she saw the whole universal form, and she had doubts. Oh, I was thinking this is my little son, and Nanda is my, So Krishna didn't like that, so he covered over again with Yoga Maya so she could chastise him and think of him as a little son. So all of that is wonderful, and there's an unlimited variety of the greatest pleasure which comes from the loving exchange with Krishna and with his devotees, with his pure devotees. That's really where our eternal life is. So we should have faith in that. This is what Srila Prabhupada taught. All the great acharyas at the end of chapter 1 is a great list. Are we really, going to think, well, I don't know, doesn't make much sense to me. But here's Madhvacharya and Ramanujacharya. They may not be in this list, but they're part of the same parampara, So we're very fortunate to have come in contact with this, and we should believe Krishna when he says, at the end, right? It sums it all up in 2 verses. Many of you know these verses. Manmana bhavaman bhakto madhyaji mam namaskadu mame vaishasi satyam te padijane priyosimi. Just think of me, become devoted, worship me, and bow down low. You'll come to me, O friend. I promise you this boon I shall bestow. Then the next verse, Sarva dharma parityajya mamekam sharanam vraja aham tvam savapapebhyo mokshiyasami mashichaha. Give up all dharmas and surrender only unto me. Your sins I'll nullify, O Arjun. From anxiety be free. So this is also for us. If we learn how to think of Krishna more and more, and he's everywhere, but basically beginning with the holy name, then and bow down to him, take a position of service, and then we'll come to him in the end. He promises this because he's our best friend. Krishna is the best friend of every living entity. What to speak of us? Peace formula. Those who know it can chant with me. Bhoktaram yagitapasang sarvaloka maheshwaram suridam sarvabhutanam gyatva mam shantamrichyati. Last verse of the 5th chapter, just a few verses beyond this. So one who knows and believes with all his heart that Krishna is the ultimate enjoyer of all austerities and sacrifices. Bhoktaram yagya tapasam sarvaloka maheshwaram, the ultimate controller and master of all the planets and all the universes. And most important for us, personally, Suridam Sarvabhutanam, the best well-wishing friend of every living entity, including us. If one really believes this, then they can attain peace in this world, if you live according to those understandings. So, let me finish with the Shikshastika verse, the first verse, which contains so much understanding and knowledge. And we should remember and be very convinced, Krishna and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu are one. Lord Chaitanya is Krishna, having appeared in this age with the complexion and the mood of Srimati Radharani for his own reasons. He wanted to feel what Radharani was feeling in relation to him. So he couldn't do it from Krishna's point of view, so he came with the mood and the emotions and the complexion of Srimati Radharani. And he also wanted to, of course, spread Krishna consciousness for the benefit of all of us. So he wrote this Shikshastika, and he didn't write it as an ashtaka. There are verses written at different times in different places and collected in the Padyavali. Padyavali is Rupa Goswami's nectar file of verses. There's about 400 verses in there. Some of them are by him, most are not. So the first verse of the Shikshastika, those who know it can chant with me. Cheto darpanam arjanam bhava mahadavagni nirvapanam sheyakaidava chandrakavatadanam vidyavadhu jivanam anandam buddhivardhanam pratipadam purnamita swadanam sarvatma snaparam param vijayate Shri Krishna sankirtanam. So I put it into a little poem. All glory to the chanting of Sri Krishna's holy names, which easily extinguishes samsara's blazing flames by polishing the lust-encrusted mirror of the heart. That chanting is the waxing moon that knows the secret art of causing the white lotus of good fortune to unfurl its petals far and wide throughout this bleak and blighted world. Of transcendental knowledge, which will take us to life's goal, the chanting of the name of Krishna is the life and soul. The ocean of ecstatic bliss floods far beyond its bounds wherever Krishna's merciful and mystic name resounds. Indeed, whenever Krishna's names are sung in congregation, at every step one tastes a joy that knows no limitation. So hear with great attention as I earnestly request, please chant Shri Krishna's holy names and be supremely blessed. The soothing nectar of the name will bathe your consciousness, bestow pure love for Krishna, and eradicate distress. That's the basis of this whole movement, actually. Hare Krishna. So, I'm going to open if there's any questions or discussion. Otherwise, I'll give you some more poems. But I have a whole file. If you're interested, I give them out for free. I also have a whole bunch of recordings of Brahma Samhita, Krishna Karnamrita, the entire Bhagavad Gita, with all of the verses and the purports and everything. And they're free. All you do is just write me and ask me for the poems or for any of these files, and I'll give you links and everything. So my email, this is the hard part to remember my email, dravida108@gmail. And if that, sign up for the newsletter, because it's always in the newsletter. They have a little plug for my Bhagavad Gita classes, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, every night for the last 35 years, at 7:15 p.m. So any discussion on any of these ideas?
I don't have a question, but I remember to point out to
Can
I got this from the library, Srimad Bhagavatam, volume 12.
Sorry.
Yeah, hold on. We have a lot of people online, so.
Oh, yeah.
You got it?
Yes, Dravida Dasa had a hand in the purports in this, and it's brilliant. I'm halfway through it. I know I'm jumping the gun.
Is
Is
it volume 12 or canto 12?
12th canto.
Yeah.
Yes, 12th. And I know I'm jumping the gun reading it on my own, but at 72, I figure I better read these books. I never will. So
If you can find, did you get it from the library, is it?
Yes.
Maybe they have the first canto also.
Yeah, I have the first
Yeah, you have
canto,
the first
yes.
canto.
Is this
This verse has a very important verse. This canto has a very important verse about the chanting. It says, Kaler dosha nidhe rajan. This is Shukadeva Goswami speaking to the king, King Pariksit. And it's a long story, but he's sitting by the Ganges and hearing the Bhagavatam, all the 18,000 verses in 7 days, and then he gets bitten by a snake bird and goes back.
Yeah, that's the front cover. He's
You're right.
fire from the
So in that canto, there's a chapter listing all of the ills of the Kali Yuga. You know, this is the last of the 4 yugas, and so it's fraught with a lot of problems. So he goes listing the mercy will be, people don't live so long, there's the leaders become corrupted. Do we really need to, we realize that, right? That's true. So, and then he says, after the list, the whole list is about the whole chapter, he says, Kaler doshanede rajan, asti eko mahadgunad, kirtanadeva krishnasya, mukta sangam param vrajet. He says, this Kali Yuga is an ocean of faults. Do I need to convince anybody of that? Anyway, but there's one very special quality here. You see the blessing. Asti eko mahadguna. Kirtanadeva krishnasya, just by chanting Krishna's holy name. Mukta sangha, you become free from the attachments that are binding us here. And param vrajet, you go to the supreme goal. You go back to Godhead. So that's another foundational verse for this movement, the Lord Chaitanya. He regarded this Srimad Bhagavatam as the real commentary explaining the Vedanta Sutra. Vedanta Sutra, Vedanta means the end or culmination of knowledge. And Sutra means aphorisms. So it's the Vedic knowledge condensed in this aphoristic form. And the first 2 are so famous. The first is a call to all of us. Atato Brahma Jigyasa. Now, therefore, that you're a human being, you should inquire into Brahman. What is that Brahman? So that's the second sutra. Janmad yasya yata. It's short. Janma adi. This is what everything that exists in the material world has a beginning, some birth, some, of course, our bodies, obviously. Adi means etc. In a human or any living entity, there's growth, there's sustenance, there's some byproduct. These trees, give up their seeds, whatever, and finally dwindling and death. These 6 changes. So that's the adi, etc. So birth and the sustenance and growth, and finally finishing, annihilating everything. So that which is the source of all of that for all of us, and everything animate and inanimate, that's the Brahman you have to inquire about. And that's Krishna, the Supreme Brahman. He says right in the Gita, Aham sarvasya prabhavo mattak sarvam pravartate. I am the source of everything. Everything is coming from me. The wise who know this truly worship me with all their hearts. 4 key verses of Bhagavad Gita, 10:8. 9, 10, 11. If you have a Bhagavad Gita, read them. And so that's, 11th, 12th canto was wonderful. And at the end, I'll just give this there are 8 verses which are all about the glories of hearing about Krishna. You see? And there's several like that. And I said, oh, this is a Krishna Katashtaka. Ashtaka means 8 verses. And at the very end, it's very similar to this verse by Rishabdev. The benefits of remembering Krishna and not forgetting him. Avismriti means not forgetting. It's more powerful than remembering. Remembering means, well, I remember, but I can forget. But if you don't forget, it means that you're constantly thinking. Avismriti Krishna Badada Vindayo. Chinotya Badhani Chashangtanoti Sattvasya Shuddhim Padamatma Bhaktim Jnanam Vijnana Viraga Yuktam. So from hearing and chanting, and we have all of this subject matter, beginning with the holy name, all of this that we can hear and chant and discuss amongst it, and that's the thing. That's what we need to do. So he says, here's the benefits of never forgetting Krishna's lotus feet in service. The first thing is that Chinotya Badhani. It destroys everything inauspicious in your life. Chinotya Badhani Chashang Tanoti. Now Sham, we know that word from Shankara, a name for Shiva. He who makes good fortune for all. So Sham is your good fortune. So it expands your good fortune. Sattvasya Shuddhim, exactly like Rishabdev's verse. You purify your existence from hearing and chanting the holy name and everything else. Sattvasya Shuddhim, Paramatma Bhaktim. And nourishes your devotion to the Supreme Soul, Krishna. Paramatma is the soul in the heart, but it's the name for him. Which is characterized by jnana, vijnana, viragya, by knowledge, realized knowledge, experiential knowledge, and by ragya to everything that's not Krishna. In other words, it all starts with that hearing, and everything flows from there, hearing and chanting sincerely. So I encourage you to get the Bhagavad Gita, tune into our classes. We have the morning classes. They're all archived on there too. You can go back. I highly recommend Rajendra Nandana Prabhu's class. He came here just before the pandemic. He retired, and he was giving wonderful classes, every few days in the morning. And then tragically, he had cancer and he departed after 1 or 2 years. But his departure was also successful, and he really was a very advanced devotee. And there's so many in the movement. But in any case, this is my little lesson for today, that we should take this, that I have a mission in life. This is my ultimate mission. I should go back to Godhead or make as much advancement as possible in this life so that in my next life I can continue. There's no loss or diminution. It's all auspicious. Whereas the sense gratification business, that leads us down and away and covers our consciousness and postpones our perfection of our life. Okay, any other questions or comments? Oh, we have one on this side. Where is that mic?
Okay, so it kind of goes on something from your lesson about how we're also given at birth, when we have to come back, forgetfulness. When we come back, when we experience birth again, we fortunately don't remember it.
We remember. We forget the previous life.
We do forget. And so we're in this new life as this time I'm Sheila. I don't know what I was before.
Right.
I really don't want to come back, but I'm fairly certain it is happening. I'm not as advanced. But to a point that he made, because he's saying, I am 72 now and I'm starting to read this. And okay, so at what point does the accumulation in this life, though I'm destined to forget when I come into the next life?
Yeah.
Is there like a bank?
Yeah. Well,
because I am so not far advanced, and I know I'm going to have to come back, but I would like to believe that my being here tonight and all the Krishna chanting that I have done, even though I have not progressed as far as I'd like to, is going to have a cumulative effect at some point for my soul, if not for Sheila.
No, forget Sheila.
The soul.
Sheila is the name of the body.
Right, yeah. You see, so that's my question, is there hope for the soul,
Totally.
even though Sheila, the body, has kind of messed up?
Yes, yes. There's total hope. Whatever you've done, sincerely, it's all in the consciousness. It may not be so accessible, all of it, but there's a subconsciousness. When the soul finally leaves the body, it goes, if you're trying to imagine it, with the covering of the mind, intelligence, and ego. That doesn't die, you see? That is the template for our next life. And all of your bhakti stuff that you've done, well, you got to continue it. That's Krishna's promise. Neha bhikramanasosti. He says right in the 2nd chapter. There's no loss or diminution. And he says in the 6th chapter, yes, okay, if you don't complete it, then you'll take birth in a family that will nourish that, which you probably didn't do this. I didn't. Yeah. But that, being in a devotee family from very birth, you'll be nourished, like these wonderful kids, these poor kids. So, yeah, I mean, it's we all have our own destiny that we're making, and it's up to us to, if you will, become determined to try to, do as, this surrendering. This is a big thing. Anukulyasya sankalpa partikulyasya varjanam. But doing as much favorable to Krishna consciousness, like coming here is favorable, obviously. Chanting the holy name, reading. And minimizing the things that we know are taking us away from Krishna. That's the hard part. But we can pray. That's what prayer is. And I'll end here because we're getting Queen Kuntī, 1st canto. If you don't have the book, you can look it up online. It's all available. She says to Krishna, very advanced devotee, but she's teaching us how to pray. Tvai me ananda vishaya mati madhupateya sakrit ratamun vahatara gange bhavagamadhanvati. O Madhava, please ever fill my mind with thoughts of thee, not any other kind. As Ganges torrent flows into the sea, let all my love flow constantly to thee. Write to me. I'll send you my poetry file. Then you can come before the deity there and you can pray like that. And meanwhile, get the book, and okay. You have something. Okay. And then okay.
Prabhu, you mentioned Brahma Jyoti when you were talking earlier. And so my question was with regard to liberation. So from the impersonal philosophy, Brahma Jyoti is the absolute truth, right?
Yes.
So for them, if they attain Brahma Jyoti, that is considered liberation.
Yeah.
But is that true liberation? Is it possible to fall down from that position?
Yes.
Okay.
That's the famous verse in Bhagavatam. Everything's in the Bhagavatam. The story of Krishna's appearance. He was in Devaki and Vasudeva were in the dungeon. Kamsa's, and Krishna appears. So before he appears, and I think right after, the demigods came down and they were hidden, but they offered these wonderful prayers. And the one that's most famous, Prabhupada would quote, is exactly in that point. Ye and ye adabindaksha vimukta maninas tvayasta bhavad abhishuddha buddhiya aruha kritrena param padang tata patantyadho anadvita yushmarangriya. So before this verse, they've been praising the glories of the great devotees. So now here he says, yeah, but there are others who are liberated, they only think they're liberated, vimukta maninas. But they're averse to serving you. Try astabhavad, abhishuddha buddhiya. Their intelligence is not really purified. So what do? Some of them, not all, but some few, with great effort at austerity, try to imagine becoming free of material desires and things without the deities, without the devotees, without the prasadam, just on your own will. You know, that's why Arjuna said, no way I can control the mind going out in the forest like that, you know. So the Aruha, they rise with quick training, with severe austerities to Parampadam, to the Brahman. But Patanjado, they come down again, because Patanjado Anadvita Yushmadangre, because they're averse to serving your lotus feet. They don't believe in your lotus feet, you see. So without bhakti, without that intense pleasure that comes from being in a rasa with Krishna and experience him, you know, in the spiritual world, then you come down from whatever platform. And they come down again in open hospitals or something like that, you know. So the Brahmajyoti is, we don't want to aim for that. We can be aware of it, and we see, oh, Krishna, you know, his effulgence, that's the Brahmajyoti, okay, fine. But as the famous uncle of Gopal Bhatta Goswami, what was his name? I forget his name, but he wrote this verse, Kaivalyam Narakayate, to Dashapura Akasha Pushpayate. The first line, Kaivalyam Narakaya, that for devotees, they're thinking this oneness of merging to be like going to hell. Because there's no Krishna, there's no bhakti, you don't have a body, you see, you can't do anything with it. Better to be here, and you have a material body, you can get trained and actually do it. So no, we don't want to go. We recognize that as the first stage of transcendence. But bhaktas, they don't want to get involved in that. Kaivalyam Narakayate, no thank you. You see? We want to see the form and pastimes of Krishna, the festivals, the holy name, the Sangha, everything. That's we can really transcend. Okay, do we have announcements? Dayanidhi Prabhu, are you there? Upcoming festivals? Oh, we have another question. Comment? No? Just giving the mic back. Okay. All right. We have 5 minutes till we have the kirtan, so I'll give you one more. Actually, I'll do the rest of the Shikshastika. How's that? So then Lord Chaitanya says, Nam Nam Akadi Bahudani de Sarva Shakti. So I'll skip the Sanskrit. Krishna, Govinda, and Keshava too, your names have no end, and in each of them you have invested your potencies, leaving none out. Whenever we want, we can chant them without the slightest restriction of time or of place. O Lord, who can fathom your infinite grace? But I am so wretched, devoid of all shame, that I haven't developed a taste for your name. And of course, Krishna, Lord Chaitanya is just imitating someone. He has an infinite taste. So how to get that taste? Next verse. Trinadapi sunichena, tarodapi sahishnana, amanina manadena, kirtaniyak sadahari. Very key verse. More humble than a blade of grass, more tolerant than a tree, to think all praise belongs to others, none belongs to me. Such qualities attract the Lord to bless one with the power to chant His name incessantly until the final hour. Now here's another, now Lord Chaitanya is teaching us how to pray. Nadanang nadanang nasundarim kavitang vajagadisha kamaye mama janmani janmani swade bhavatar bhaktida hoitaki tvayi. Wealth and women, followers, the fruits of mundane piety, liberation from this world of limitless anxiety. For me, O Lord, these common goals have not the slightest worth. Let me serve you purely now and in each future birth. So here he's saying that bhakti is so strong that even I don't want to be liberated unless I can serve you. So let me serve you birth after birth in this world. He's saying it's even more potent than that. So then he's praying for perfection. He says, no, then this is another verse. Your servant for eternity, I lost my true identity and fell into this horrid sea of birth and death, O Lord. O Nanda's son, please hear my plea. By your sweet grace, consider me a speck of dust upon your lotus feet forevermore. Now he prays for perfection in the next 3 verses. Tears streaming from my eyes, my voice choked with bliss, the hair upon my body standing up in happiness. When will all these signs of rapture decorate my limbs as I chant your holy name, the monarch of all hymns? Now, the last 2 are actually uttered by Radharani, Lord Chaitanya in the mood of Srimati Radharani. Every moment drags on like 1,000,000 years or more. From the rain clouds of my eyes, the tears in torrents pour. This whole creation is nothing but a vast and joyless void. Oh, Govinda, by your absence I am being destroyed. And finally, this Radharani's verse. Let Madhava embrace this maid who's fallen at his feet, or let him trample me on my most ardent hope's defeat, by never giving me a chance to see him anywhere, thus shattering my heart and plunging me into despair. You see, he is a restless libertine and not a saint, so let him act in any way he likes without restraint. And here's the punchline. Yet though his cruel and crooked ways may cause me constant woe, Krishna is the only Lord my heart shall ever know. And this is the perfection. So if you're interested in something, this is just a suggestion. 20 years ago, almost in 2005, it's a long story, but I ended up singing that in Mayapur, in the main temple. The deities were closed, but I had, you know who Vyasaki is? Have you heard of Vyasaki? He's a famous Kirtaniya. Well, he was there, my side man. Behind me was Indra. Many of you heard of Indra. And how about Radhanath Swami? Have you all heard of him? Yeah, he was there. And I was nervous, you know, because I had to try. I hadn't rehearsed. Oh God, I did muff a few words, but I didn't even know it was being recorded. The next day, some Russian fellow who'd recorded the video, he gave me an MP3. So if you're interested in seeing that, you can go to YouTube. I think most of you are familiar with YouTube, right? And you just look for Dravida, D-R-A-V-I-D-A, space, Mayapur. And you'll see I chanted this, but I had a whole temple full of devotees. It was quite something. I did muff a few lines, but forgive me for that. Okay, I'm not ready to give the announcements, but usually, Mukunda Prabhu. Yeah, you know what's coming up. Thank you very much for your attention. Haribol.
I'll steal your microphone.
Sure.